News has obtained thousands of brand new text messages exchanged between anti-Trump FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. The pair, who worked at one point for Robert Mueller's investigation of alleged collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. Those new text messages now are raising even more questions about bias within the agency, the FBI, and whether President Obama got involved in the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails just weeks out from the election. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge has more from Washington. Great to see you, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Harris. These text messages were sent in September 2016, 2 months after the FBI closed the Clinton email investigation recommending against criminal charges, and 2 months into the Bureau's Russia probe. Then FBI agent Strzok writes to FBI lawyer Lisa Page, talking points for Director Comey. Page replies, yes, because POTUS wants to know everything we're doing. It's not clear from the text alone whether Strzok and Page are referring to either investigation or something else. In an interview on Fox News Sunday at the height of the FBI's email criminal case, President Obama insisted he had no special access to any investigation.
I guarantee it. I guarantee that there is no political influence in any investigation conducted by the Justice Department or the FBI, not just in this case, but in any case.
And she will be
full stop, period.
And she will be treated no different.
Guaranteed, full stop.
In the July 2016 statement recommending against criminal charges in the email investigation, then FBI Director Comey's early draft said emails between Clinton and President Obama had probably been compromised by hackers. But this was watered down by FBI agents Strzok and others to senior government official and then ultimately removed altogether. A week before Comey's public statement on June 30th, 2016, Strzok and Page talk about the edits in an effort to downplay it. Hope so. Just left Bill. This is Strzok's boss, Bill Priestap. He changed president to another senior government official. After the election, both Page and Strzok say they are depressed. And in mid-November, Page writes, I bought all the president's men. Figure I need to brush up on Watergate. The next day, Page tells Strzok, God, being here makes me angry. Lots of highfalutin national security talk. Meanwhile, we have our task ahead of us. Senate investigators want to know if this reference to our task is somehow connected to the reference insurance policy that was discussed in then Deputy Director McCabe's office just before the election, Harris.
Catherine Herridge, thank you very much for giving us
welcome.
even more information today. We appreciate it. Let's bring in Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan. And the congressman serves on the House Judiciary and Oversight Committees. Great to see you today. Thank you for being here. Is this going to be a problem for the former president, Barack Obama?
Too early to tell, but I will say this, his guarantee that there was no political bias doesn't look too accurate today. And the text message that Catherine first referenced, understand the timing. The Clinton investigation is closed on July 5th, 2016. Peter Strzok was the key agent who ran that investigation. He interviewed Abedin, Mills, he interviewed Clinton. That investigation is closed July 5th when Director Comey does his big press conference. Later that same month, July 2016, they open the Trump-Russia investigation. And who's the agent who opens that investigation? Peter Strzok. 4.5 weeks later, September 2nd, is when we have this text message where Lisa Page texts back to Peter Strzok and says, the President of the United States wants to know everything we're doing. Now, what does that refer to? We don't know for sure, but understand the significance of the timeline. They had just opened the Trump-Russia investigation, and after all, this is the same couple who said we need an insurance policy to make sure that the American people don't elect Donald Trump president. That's why we need to look into this even more.
Wow, we needed that timeline last hour on Outnumbered because we were going around in circles about what, and we had a former State Department employee on the couch with us. Now it makes sense to me. So, in terms of
just for emphasis, Harris, July 5th, Clinton was cleared. July 5th, she's cleared. Later that month, Peter Strzok, the same agent who's involved in clearing her, opens the Trump-Russia investigation. August of that month is when they do these text messages back and forth, right? Insurance policy text messages. September 2nd is when they do the text message that says, POTUS, President Obama wants to know everything we're doing. That is a clear timeline. Now, again, we don't know for sure what it means, but it certainly warrants investigation, and it certainly brings into a new perspective this idea that there's a guarantee from President Obama that there was no political influence at the top levels of the FBI.
Well, and it is problematic if, in fact, there was not as much truth telling there about what was going on at that highest level. That can sometimes give a chilling effect in how people do their jobs. I want to talk to you about the text messages, though, in terms of the bias which they show between these two employees of the FBI. What do we need to know?
Well, they're as biased as can be. I would say it goes past bias. It's animus. Plus, they don't just dislike President Trump. They dislike people who supported him. They talk about hillbillies who voted against McCabe's wife, who was running for state senate. They talk about walking in Walmart and saying, "Oh, I can smell the Trump supporters." So the animus towards people who support President Trump is so obvious. Not to mention the text message where Peter Strzok says Trump is awful. He should lose 100 million to zero. These same people ran the Clinton investigation, opened and ran the Russia-Trump investigation, and now we learn all this material. This idea that the President of the United States was asking, what the heck is going on? What all are you doing? Again, real cause for concern, and why we need a thorough investigation. And frankly, why we need a second special counsel to look into this entire affair.
It's so interesting how those, once we didn't know where they were, text messages are continuing to give oxygen to a whole lot of questions with regard to this.
Sure.
Let's make it a change right now, though, because I want to talk with you about the Democratic memo on surveillance abuses and whether or not we're kind of getting closer to seeing some difference. So I know that the president met yesterday with the Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein. What came out of that we need to know?
Well, I'm not sure, but this memo will follow the same process. They'll have the same key people at the FBI and Justice and our intelligence lawyers look at this and make sure that it's cleared in the same way the Republican memo. I want it out there. More importantly, I want the transcripts and the actual FISA application made public. I want the American people to see all that took place.
Yeah, I mean, it's that evidentiary support. However much of it might have to be redacted for the public so that everybody can kind of see the same playing field, if you will, in terms of information. So the president met with Rosenstein, and we are told that possibly they talked about the differences between the GOP and the Democratic message. Is there something, have you seen both of these? Well, I know you've seen one. Have you seen the Democratic one?
Sure have. Read it twice. Read it again yesterday. The key part that the Democrats keep pointing to is that they say we did mention in the application that there was talk about the political nature of the dossier. But when you read it, the roundabout way they try to describe the political nature is, I mean, they could have just been direct. They could have just said the fact that, look, the DNC and the Clinton campaign paid for it. The roundabout way they go about doing this, I think when people get to see it, they're going to say, wow, why didn't you just state it clearly, state it plainly? Why didn't you just tell us what was really going on? That was my impression as I looked at that information.
Before you walk away from our camera, Chief of Staff John Kelly is taking some heat a little bit for describing one memo, the Democratic memo, being one that is cleaner, if you will, in terms of methods at the FBI versus the Republican memo. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'll let the intelligence experts clear that up and make available to the public what they're permitted to. I want as much information possible, public as possible, including, as I said earlier, I'd love to see the FISA application made public. I'd love to see the transcripts of the actual court proceeding made public. Then we get the full context and we can know exactly what happened there. But what we do know is this: they went to a secret court to get a secret warrant, and they used a Democrat finance opposition document as the lead thing to get that warrant. That is a problem.
Yeah, and they didn't disclose to the court in detail how it was paid for.
Who paid for it?
Yeah,
didn't disclose the fact that they had terminated their relationship with the author of that document, Christopher Steele, because he broke a fundamental trust issue. He went to the press and told them he was working with the FBI. They didn't disclose that, but they still continued to use his work product, that dossier, that document, as the basis for getting the warrant.
All right, Congressman Jim Jordan, we are inside those 5 business days that the White House has to take a look at the Democratic memo. We'll report the news on it as it happens. Great to see you. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.